guys, how's it going? Today we're going to be planting up some Sempervivums in this really cool old rusty container that once belonged to my grandpa. And then we are going to also be planting up our sweet pea seeds. A couple of days ago, I planted up a batch of annual flower seeds that were meant to be started 4 to 6 weeks before our average last frost date. Sweet peas were supposed to be part of that group, but I've forgotten to soak them. So they are soaking right now, so we'll get them planted today. So this is just a really old cool container. It was in my grandparents' garage when we were kind of cleaning it out, and I thought, oh, I could bring a little bit of life to it. It had a big old bunch of screws and nails and stuff in it. You know how you find like bowls and cans of those types of things? That's what this was. You can see that we have already put drain holes in it because I've used this as a planter a couple of other times. But I've got this really cool collection of plants from Mountain Crest Gardens, and I would really like to select a few of these beautiful Sempervivums because they're hardy here, and Sempervivums only for this arrangement. So things like this. I want to keep it fairly simple, and I'm also going to give these just a little bit of room. I know you guys are probably shocked, but I want them to be able to stay in this for longer than a year is usually what I get out of our jam-packed succulent containers. I'd like these just to have a little room to spread out a little bit and have their little babies. That's how Sempervivums work. And just, yeah, be able to stay in here for a little bit longer, because this one can winter over outside if we decide to leave it outside somewhere. We're gonna do all of our work in the greenhouse today because that's where I've got all the rest of my supplies, but I wanted to start in here because that's where all of our plants are. It's been an absolutely gorgeous day. We woke up to pouring rain, and it poured for hours this morning. Really good saturating rain. We had a little break, and it looks like we're gonna start back up here within probably the next hour or so. And it's supposed to rain for a good portion of the afternoon and evening into the night. Okay, so let's just grab some of these. Some of them have really bright coloring, and some are a little bit more muted. And some of them are big, and these are hard to water because, like, where do you water it? You have to either soak it from underneath, which I don't even think this root ball reaches the whole length of this pot, or you have to, you know, water from the top and hope water makes it down. So I think things will be happier potted. Ooh, look at this one. That one's so cool. Okay, I've got the container full of Sempervivums. I don't intend on planting all of those in this one container, so we'll probably find a second and possibly a third container to put the rest in. Oh, it's so beautiful out here. Oh, look at this, you guys. Look at the bulbs coming up. Oh, we have alliums and tulips. They're looking so good. Now, these are on the west side of the Hartley, so I think they're bigger than the ones on the other side. Let's take a look. Oh, I don't know. I mean, maybe a touch, but these are coming in strong as well, as are the bulbs in the containers on the four corners. Nice warm greenhouse. Okay, I need to reorganize and go grab some cactus soil and more containers real quick. All right, we are ready to roll. I did blend together these two types of soil. With how hot and dry it is here in the summertime, adding in a little bit of the organic potting mix in with the cactus mix just helps retain a little bit more moisture. I don't want to use 100% of either one of those probably for this arrangement, because this one I will not be setting up on drip because all of our drip zones typically run once a day, and that would be too much for the Semps. So by putting a little bit of the organic potting mix in, it will help elongate the amount of time between when I have to take a watering can or hose over to this container. I'm so used to stuffing things full that these don't even look like enough for this container, but I'm gonna try to restrain myself. I don't know, guys. We'll see what happens here. But to just give you an idea, this is what the root ball looks like. But you can really remove quite a bit of that root ball if you need to. Like, you can knock some of the soil off. It's easier when they're more wet. But I will be taking each one of them, and I'll be grooming the lower leaves. This is typical and normal of Semps to do. So we'll groom all of those lower leaves off. Anyway, let's see what we can come up with. I do have another terracotta shallow container here to fill with more should we need to. Oh my gosh, you guys, isn't that pretty? Oh, what a fun way to plant all the Semps all in one spot, all but 3. I had to go get a different container because I only had 3 left and I didn't want them to be kind of drowning in that larger low bowl that I had. But I think that this one is pretty. They all have just a little bit of room between them, but it's full enough to still look like super abundant and way easier to put together than my normal arrangements. Usually I'm building up soil and really cramming stuff in and we get a really tall mounded effect. They are a little bit more tricky to water that way. This one I can just water right over the top. Everything is good. It does look like I need to clean these off just a little bit more. So I watered them in. I'll wait till they dry and then I'll just use a really soft brush to get any of the soil that I wasn't able to get off of them with the water. So we'll get them all really tidied up here. I used a mix of stone to top dress the soil just to give it a finished look. I used the polished black gravel, which these stones are just a little bit bigger. And then used these are black bean pebbles. You can see when they're dry, they look a little more gray, but I did use these in another arrangement that had some sand. So there's some sand in there. I reuse soil top dress until like it gets incorporated in the soil and I can't find it anymore. I just reuse it and reuse it and reuse it. When the water hits them though and kind of cleans that sandy dust off of them, they are more black. So you can see like some of the larger stones in here and then the smaller stones just kind of trickle in and fill in the gaps nicely. Hey, you two. Need to share. I need to get a second chair in here apparently. I lined all of the tags up here. I tried to keep them in order of how I planted them, but I knocked into them once and messed up my pile. So anyway, these are all the varieties that went into the making of these 2 arrangements. And they're all on Mountain Crest Gardens website. So that's where they all came from. Did I already say that? Not sure. Okay, before we move on to sweet peas, I did bring this container out as well. And I wanted to plant it up with some of the pretty white cyclamen we have blooming. And this will be a very simple arrangement as well. Let's get that done. It turned out so cute. Now this container I did not put a drain hole in and it's actually got a plastic liner. I went ahead and planted straight in the plastic liner and you just have to water sparingly. Thankfully, cyclamen can handle that sort of situation fairly well. In fact, I've noticed that here in our climate at least, to keep them the happiest even in here is to keep them moist. So keep them on the moist side, don't let them dry out. The second they dry out, mine just wilt down. They do pick back up, but then they start to kind of languish a little bit, and it sometimes is a downhill slide after I've let them dry out. So just keeping them moist is the best thing to do, I think, with those. Okay, our potting projects are done. It is starting to sprinkle again outside and the wind is starting to pick up. I don't know if you can hear the plastic. It's kind of whipping around a little bit. We're gonna move on to sweet peas now. Here in the studio, you can see all of our sweet pea seeds, which have been soaking for several hours. We've got 13 varieties, I think. We've got Blue Ripple, Spencer Ice Cream, Nimbus, Old Times, Route 66, Streamer's Chocolate, Spencer Ripple Formula Mix, Pulsar, Flora Norton, Erewhon, is that how you say it? I don't know, I only had 4 seeds of that one left. Noel Sutton, Finn River Mix, and Molly Rawlstone. It's funny when I'm reading different seed packets, it'll tell you different things about the pre-soaking. It'll say 6 to 8 hours soak, don't over soak. And then some will say to soak for 24 hours. I think if you hit anywhere between the 6 to 24 hour mark, it will help with germination. And what it does is just help soften that outer coating on your seed so that they can break open a little bit easier. So mine have been soaking for just over 6 hours at this point. All of these cups right here were from last year. I found them. So sometimes it does pay to hang on to your junk for a full year to use it again. But it was perfect because I had many of the same varieties. We only had to get out 3 saucers to accommodate some of my new ones. We're gonna take these out to the greenhouse. I'm gonna go grab my root trainers, which I'll explain to you. They're amazing, an amazing way to start your sweet peas. We'll get all set up and ready to roll. this is what a root trainer is right here. So basically just a way to start seeds for those type of plants that don't like root disturbance, or those that kind of form more of a taproot. They have a really deep soil reservoir, and I filled one up right here to show you how you get the seedlings out. So instead of, having to squeeze the cell and, or pop them out, these open up. So of course the soil is going to probably fall apart because there's no roots, but so they open up like this. Let me do a clean one. They pop open like that, so you can just gently remove your root ball without messing them up in any way. So once your plants are rooted, the soil stays together clearly, but they just snap together like that, and I've been using these for a few years now. They hold up really well. So any of those types of seeds that you read that they like to either be direct seeded because they don't want root disturbance, if you're wanting to start them inside, kind of like verbascum, that's what I started in these last year. They don't like root disturbance. They tend to form a little bit more of a taproot sort of root system, and they did beautifully, and they transplanted beautifully because I didn't rough up their root system at all. So that's how sweet peas typically like to be started, in something a little bit bigger than your traditional seed cells. So I'm going to put 2 holes in each one of these cells, and we plant the seeds about 1/4 to a 1/2 inch deep. And with 13 varieties, I think I've got roughly 20 seeds per variety, except for those few where I only had like 4. One of them I only have 11, that sort of thing. So I don't know how many trays we're going to end up with here, but we are pre-moistening our seed starting mix, which I already did with our first batch here. So I'm just going to get this done. And here we are, almost 8 full flats of sweet peas. Oh, it's going to be so pretty. The only one I didn't fill all the way was this one. I filled all the way to where this blank tag is. So I've got 10 cells back here where I can pop seeds for something else. But that's a lot of sweet peas right there. So our sweet peas are just going to live out here in the greenhouse. For now, they're on the ground until I start clearing some stuff and organizing. The lawn back here is probably going to vacate here fairly soon, so we have more room for stuff, especially as I'm separating seedlings and potting new things up, and then we will get our annual order in the next few weeks, so that will require a lot of space. But sweet peas don't need light in order to germinate. A lot of the other seeds I have in here do require light to germinate. These need darkness, but their seeds are buried, 1/4 to 1/2 inch underneath the soil surface, so they're getting the darkness they need. But I won't need to worry about moving them out into more light until they start to germinate. And same with the humidity domes. Those will stay on until they're all germinated, and then I take those off. And what those do is help keep moisture levels up and just keep them protected and not drying out until they're up. It takes them a couple weeks typically to germinate. Between 55 and 65 degrees Fahrenheit is typically where they like it to be. And there are a lot of different series of sweet peas, like there are for a lot of other plants now. They've bred some of these things to where they can handle more heat and drought. I think like the Mammoth series does that, and then there's an Elegance series that can take lower light, so shorter days and cooler temperatures. So those are good for earlier on in the season. And then like the Spencer, we've got Spencer, Ripple and Spencer Ice Cream. Those require at least 12 hours of sunshine in order to produce. So those are really good in areas like ours where our summer days are super, super long. So those will be blooming a little bit longer into the season. However, our sweet peas typically bloom for pretty much the whole season. Once we get them up and going, they're just in bloom. The one thing we do have to watch ours for, though, are spider mites. Spider mites love sweet peas, so we have to keep our eyes peeled for that. Anyway, really great day out here in the greenhouse. Super happy to have these done and planted. and we don't have a whole lot more to do in terms of seeds. I think what I need to do at this point is go through my inventory, kind of update my inventory based on everything that I've done. I've got a stack of packets that I need to update, and then just see if I missed anything. And I'm not starting any of my own peppers or tomatoes this year because I'm not feeling it. I don't want to. I want to go to the garden center and shop for those. I do miss that on some of the varieties, just going and seeing what they have. And I think I'm going to stick with varieties that I know I really like. Last year I did 30 or so varieties. They were all random and really neat looking varieties, but not so much in the taste department. So we're going to do things a little bit different this year, but things are doing well in here. You can see behind me, the seedlings are looking great. Look at this lettuce. I mean, we just potted this up. Can you believe that? Look at these. They are gorgeous. And I think our geraniums have put on some growth as well. They're looking amazing. And we've got a ranunculus almost in bloom here in our lemon pot. It's the most gorgeous color. This needs to come off. Maybe. It's squishy. This is the biggest lemon I've ever seen. Looks like it should be an orange, but it's not. It's definitely a lemon. I think this one's ready too. Even touching those fruit. Lettuce in here is doing great. Oh, Russell is laying on our dahlias. No action on the dahlias yet. Russell, you can't be laying on those. I know, they look comfortable, but they're not for you, dude. These cats. No action on the freesia yet. Not surprising. All of the topiaries are doing great. The stuff we started a couple of days ago, of course, no action on that yet. And our white ranunculus that we need to find a spot for outside. So many exciting things. And in the studio, I've got a lot of flats of things like Rudbeckia and Snapdragons I want to get moved out here because I think they'll be stronger plants. There's fans going all over in here. I've actually been opening the sides on sunny days. Even though it's cooler outside, it gets really hot in here. So I open the sides and there's a lot more airflow, and I think it creates a better, stronger plant. So anyway, that's it for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you're having a really great day, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.